I think if people were interested in what I was saying in my story, like that's cool. Sometimes I feel like I say a whole lot of nothing. So I'm gonna attempt, maybe it'll be really short in the podcast, of like talked quite a bit about skills. So if I'm gonna be like practical and like remove some luck or all of it, it's like, what can you do with the cards that you have? Like, what are some practical things that you can take on today? Which is probably what you were asking us at the beginning. But when I really think deeply about it, I'm like, I equate it to these things because I'm gonna take it back for a sec. Because when I was younger, I would preach what you're asking me for, thinking that would help people, without realizing all of the things that are unique to me. And so it doesn't work for most people. And it's like, oh, well, all you got to do is, and I'm like, no, it's not all you got to do. So that's why as I've gotten older, it's like recognizing and talking about luck. Cause I think maybe that's the critical thinking part, where I'm asking the person to take a moment to look at the cards they were dealt. Cause all you're doing is then trying to recall stuff that maybe you forgot or don't want to remember. You just do that, and it'll bring you places. I've just been doing that for a long time. So if you haven't done that yet, it's like skill acquisition is one thing. And I think that I'm going to list some stuff. That's part of it. The other portion really always is just ask why and reflect on the past. And like, not from a self-deprecating place, but just to understand, right? You're not trying to do anything but to understand. From there, you can look to, I want to evolve this or change that or improve this, right? You can layer in other things. Because I understand that going into places that hurt, you can get stuck there. If you don't want to get stuck, just let the things be, instead of, I don't know how to explain this because I do it in my head all the time. We have organic thoughts that come through, and then we have additional thoughts that judge the thoughts. That is what we're actively doing. So you want to learn how to remove the judgment around the thoughts, because your natural thoughts they might be really shitty and or good. Those are natural and they need to come out. That's your guide to like unpacking and working through your shit, and taking the time to handle that in doses in the way that is possible for you. And so sometimes people struggle with that because they have that extra layer of judging these things. So you got to learn how to take that part out. That's an additional voice that you just picked up along the way. So you want to be able to get to the real meat of things. Because if the additional voice is what you do is you do a dance. Because the judgment because now it's like you got the real shit and then you got the judgment, and they're just doing this together. The judgment's not, we can say, not real, because you have subconscious control over this and you're replaying it unconsciously. That's why it's a circle. But if you can remove the judgment piece, then you allow what's been buried forever to just unpack. And you don't need to do anything. You just let it unpack. But sometimes unpacking is dangerous. So that's why I've said this before, maybe not on here. If you're unpacking or you're working through something, at the same time you're learning about yourself. You have to, from time to time, like, people have their limits and you don't know yours until you try. But sometimes our limits can be dangerous. And so you want to do it in a way where you start to learn about yourself, but you practice caution. Caution is, if you know yourself, which if you're listening to this, you're 20, 30, whatever, you know some of the shitty things that you feel and that you've done, right? When you get really uncomfortable, you probably do something bad to yourself or to another person. When you unpack your feelings and emotions, the stuff that's just there, you're going to do some of that. You're going to want to do some of that stuff. So those are like danger points. And if you don't have, I don't know what it is, the something to like work through that safely, you need somebody else. You need some level of support, protection, accountability, so that you can safely maneuver through icky feelings and you just keep processing them. I mean, a therapist is, helpful in that regard. You don't need to take the feelings right away and do something with it. You just got to unpack them, because eventually the ones that are buried deeply will kind of like fade out. If you've never done this before, probably don't know what I'm talking about, but that's what I believe. I believe that's how that works, just because I've done it a lot and have conversations and stuff. That's magic. Skill acquisition. So because we just talked about like reflecting and feelings and how these things come out, right? So that's like that needs to always happen. That you need to just do. It's part of being a human being if you want to have a good time. Skill acquisition would just be things like, okay, how I see it is the bosses and the tough battles that I'm gonna keep going back to, like, these are your feelings, right? There's lots of scary bosses and crazy things in there, right? You must, if you want to make this easier, and like, because it's, yeah, if you want to make it a little bit easier and you want to be equipped to solve the problems, you have to go get some skills to help you endure through it, right? So that's the point of like developing certain things that are good for your mental health or whatever, whether that's like going to the gym and things like that, right? So it's like stuff that you do in real life to help build certain things. So like eating clean and sleeping and working out, like those all sound boring and like, yeah, we need to do them. But if you do them, it gives you just more energy to have the endurance to take stuff on, right? That's super basic. So the more healthy things you do, the more endurance you have to do the hard stuff. That's like, think of it in that regard, as like the basic building blocks for how much energy I can put into this. And then the other stuff would just be like literal things of like, one of my favorite things I've been kind of saying the past couple of years that I've learned in this relationship that I'm in. You probably chop all this shit down.
No, it's okay. Keep going.
Yeah, my skill acquisition is learning. I think is one of the most important values or principles that I think everyone should have. I think that's a non-negotiable. I can counter that point to like ignorance is bliss, and if you only know this much, like that version, which is like what everyone's becoming, is like it's constantly looking for hits in life and it feels good and you can live in that forever, right? You can go to the grave in that and you'd probably feel fine. And there's some dystopian shit out there that like shows you what that could look like. That's not what I'm trying to do. And I'm not advocating for that. But you could live a life like that. So my argument is like for learning, I think as long as you value learning, that means you're practicing it in some way. And if you do that, I personally think that what is human nature, and if we're just talking about it, like it is human nature, but again, just like anything else that maybe that is natural to us, how you come out the womb and then how it gets shaped and stuff. If it's a skill that you have to like rebuild or like really get cranking on, learning to me, I think is S tier and probably number one, because we talk about like patience and work, whatever, all that stuff, right? I'm like, what are we talking about? We're talking about learning. You're trying to learn and acquire something new and different. So learning, in my opinion, unless there's another thing, is like peak. Because if you're unwilling to learn, that means you're unwilling to change and you're unwilling to be wrong and unwilling to be different and unwilling to try. Learning equals new. New equals something else in your life will change because you learned something new, and some things might leave because it's old, because the new thing replaces the old thing. And that's just like life over and over. And hopefully the new things that you're choosing will make you feel better in your body. Like that's what we're aiming for in this podcast, and like what I'm talking about of like, we want to feel great in our bodies, not from a dopamine standpoint, but from I can take whatever the world throws at me and I can like feel good about who I am like every day. No stimulants, no nothing. Just me. As long as I'm sleeping, eating, and taking care of myself, like I don't need all these extra things to feel good about myself. Like that's, to me, that's what it means to like when you value learning and you're intaking things to improve your overall like vitality. The only thing that I'll put right before learning that I always remember after is curiosity. If you don't stay curious, then why the fuck should you learn anything? So sometimes where it's like life, right? You're like, you lose your curiosity. So I think if you've lost that, so whether it's like, oh, I'm trying to redevelop or improve my willingness to learn, or I'm not curious about anything right now. It's like, if you're not, you just try things until you redevelop curiosity. Because if you expose yourself to a bunch of new different things in real life and like go down different rabbit holes, you'll rewire that curiosity part in your brain. It's like, ooh, that's interesting. Let me try this and whatever. In that, you're like already attempting to learn something else. So maybe it starts with curiosity and rebuilding that. But yeah, those are two of my favorite things because it gives you a foundation to change if you need to, if you want to. That's how I see it. And like, you can learn horrible things, right? And you can be curious about the worst things. Those are neutral desires that we have. And so I'm just hoping that with that, you're able to pick up things that make you more resilient, make you more courageous, make you more patient, understanding, honest. These are all like characteristics I love. And then just the whole art thing, telling you, make shit. If you just make stuff instead of just keep taking stuff in, it'll really help your brain, especially in the world that we live in today. And then the book that I might have referenced last time that I'm going to say, there's two always. My two favorites, three, God. Getting the Love You Want, that's great relationally. That has been a powerful foundation because I was willing to learn. I was willing to be wrong about so many things that I was wrong about, so that I can evolve. And so Getting the Love You Want was really helpful for that. It gave me a path forward when it came to navigating relationships and myself. And then Digital Minimalism, because today, I like, both are super easy to read, digital, and both are also very practical books, because they give you action steps and you just follow it. I'm not saying it's going to save your life, but if you internalize it, and instead of just reading the book and be like, oh, that was cool, you have to learn. You got to intake the book. That's how I read. That's why I never finish books. So I'll like read it and I'm like, bet I got to go do this. I got to go do what this is saying. It's saying that I need to do this because clearly I don't know how to do this. So then I start following what the book is saying. So Digital Minimalism will be phenomenal for making you question your relationship with technology. Like, truly, it gives you a plan, follow the plan, and then you can reintegrate tech back into your life in a more intentional way. That's why I like that book so much. So yeah, it makes you question, like, why do we have Facebook? Why do we have Instagram? And then like, why do you use it for these ways? And then once you start to answer those questions, you're like, oh, and then you realize, bro, like, I don't like, Instagram isn't the end all be all. Like, there's so many other ways to do things, right? So just like an example of that. And then the third book that's also an OG book that really helped me, if we talk about the health trifecta of like, be physically active, eat decently, sleep well, the underrated one that is becoming more popular, Sleep Smarter by Sean Stevenson. Still my GOAT. He, again, super easy read. It's 21 tips on how to do it. It's all proven, and you will sleep so much better, and then you will become a person that you didn't even know that was possible. So that's like my trifecta. You got the relationships, the sleep, and then the technology relationship thing. That to me is enough. And granted, there's all sorts of books out there and different things, but they're actionable books, and they get you to ask why, and they improve your life if you do it. And maybe you'll start asking why about different things after you go through those books.
Yeah. A beautiful TED Talk by Vattana here. And all amazing things that you can practically take on next. By the way, there's water here if you want to get I'm sorry I didn't tell you that earlier, but there is water there for but yeah, hitting on a lot of great points about acquiring skills, especially if you're developing new goals. You have to change your systems and your habits in order for you to change as a person. But at the end of the day, also, if you're in a rut, understanding why you're in a rut. I think the real question of why and intention is the thing that's going to really help you to really understand yourself. If you're listening to this and you're like, well, I don't know myself, it's time to figure out and ask yourself those questions, to sit alone and let those, you made such a beautiful way of saying it, of that extra noise, that judgment on your own thoughts, because we have the thought, but we do judge ourselves on it. And I didn't realize that until you said it, because like, oh shit, that's why I was in such a dark place, because I was judging myself for having certain thoughts. Those natural habit thoughts is who you are as a person. Granted, if it's about harming other people, I think you should really think about that. But it really shows like the type of person that either A, you want to be, or the type of person you are currently. So thank you, beautiful, for all of that. I will put those books down below so that you can check them out.